Yeah, I got to take that smile off my face real quick. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and of course DK in the background. We are here to talk about the Ravens being smitten and beat around and teased and toyed with before they were eaten up by the Cincinnati Bengals. The Ravens lost today 41-17. They got trounced. We were all wrong. But we got a lot to talk about. Got a lot to talk about when it comes to this game. I think that we should frame our conversation around the following: the good, the bad, the ugly. What they can do and improve. What they can do to improve it within this season, like what we actually think is feasible moving forward, and provide a little bit of perspective. Also, I want to take some time to talk about health, because if you thought the Ravens were thin before, you got a new thing coming to you. So. Let's start. Let's get all things Glenn notes. Let's get that thing started. Glenn, let's break it down. Where you want to start, my man?
Well, let's get into some stats here. Let's talk about the numbers a little bit. Talk about, and then we'll kind of get in more in depth. So the Bengals win 41-17, and we'll start with the winning team when going over the stats. Joe Burrow went 23 of 38 for 416 yards, Jimbo, with 3 touchdowns.
I officially hate Joe Burrow more than Baker Mayfield. Walking in with the green suit, like he owns the plate, and I'm done. I'm done with Joe Burrow.
Wow, Baker quickly moved off the most hated mantle.
Well, he's not a threat anymore. He's just not a threat.
Oh, I see.
Not a threat. I mean,
Burrow should be proud to be your most hated, because that means he poses a threat to the team. So, all right. So Joe Burrow, 3 touchdowns. And we're going to get back to that. But Joe Mixon, 12 carries, 59 yards on the touchdown. Samaje Perine, 11 for 52 in the touchdown, including a 46-yarder that really, if you want to call it the final nail in the coffin, the game was already over before that, but it certainly put it out of reach even more so. And then, Jimbo, we were wrong about this one. You were big wrong about this one. Jamar Chase, 8 catches, 201 yards, a touchdown, an 82-yard touchdown.
That was an embarrassment.
Shame. And then CJ Uzomah has 2 monster plays, 3 catches, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. But both touchdowns, I mean, the one, shockingly enough, on Marlon Humphrey, where not only does he give up the big catch, but then gets pushed around and
he looked like Patrick Queen trying to make that tackle.
Yeah, it was bad. And then the other one, he was a complete blown assignment where all 3 Ravens in the area jump the flat route and leave him wide open up the seam. And then I think it was Deshaun Elliott misses the tackle, and he walks in 2 monster. I mean, you talk about 3 monster plays, Jimbo, through the air, and then the other one on the ground with Samaje Perine. I mean, you talked about it before the game. This was a game where you can't give up the big play, and they gave up countless big plays defensively.
Big play after big play after big play. Yeah, no, it was really, really, really frustrating one, both offensively and defensively. Let's get into the Ravens stats as well. Obviously not as pretty. Lamar Jackson went for 15 of 31, 257 yards, 1 touchdown with that beautiful play to Hollywood Brown was maybe the lone bright spot of this game. Also led our team in rushing with 88 yards, 12 carries. I absolutely hated the punishment that he was taking this game, and it was frustrating to me. As a team, the Ravens rushed for 115. We had 278 passing yards because, of course, Huntley came in at the end of the game. We did win the turnover battle, and we won the time of possession battle, which is pretty surprising. Hollywood Brown led our team in reception or in receiving yards with 8 touchdowns. Receptions and yards with 5 receptions, 80 yards and 1 touchdown.
On 14 targets, Jimbo, he had 5 catches.
Yeah, and that's one of my notes. I want to get into this. So, where you want to start, Glenn? You want to start with the offense? You want to start with defense? You want to go in chronological order? Let's just start with Hollywood. That's where we're at. Let's just start there. So one of the things I think overall that's frustrating to me about this game is going to be interesting navigating moving forward is that there's certainly multiple times that Lamar has predetermined that he's going to number 5. But now it's funny, we actually have other guys that he can throw to. Obviously, he's always been able to throw to 89, Mark Andrews, but now you have Bateman, who look, he looks good. He looks the part. This is his second game ever, and every time he got the ball, you can tell why he was a first-round pick. But we have, so we have other guys out there that can catch the ball and do things with it. How do we go about this balance of dispersing the football and sharing it around and making sure we're utilizing all the talent that we have out there? Because that was frustrating to me to see play after play after play after play. When that ball was moving down the air and the camera had to pan, you already knew where it was going. It was going to 5.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
why
was holding
can't
my breath.
anyone else do it?
Well, look, there's no doubt they have a chemistry, and he looks for him first and foremost. But I mean, also, there's a lot of trust from the coaching staff in Marquise, and I don't know if the other guys have had that. I don't know if they've had a lot of, Bateman. I don't know if he's had the time to earn it, but
Right.
I don't. It's hard to explain that amount of targets going to one guy, and he only turns it into 5 yards. That's the part that I'm concerned. The targets doesn't bother me as much as the fact that he only turned it into 5 catches. I mean, at some point, I don't know. Obviously, Lamar Jackson was not as sharp today. He was off on his throws. There was some bouncers going in. But what bothered me is the inaccuracies came at big times. I mean, at the end of the game, we had a 3rd and 4th down that were it just looked like poor effort. I mean, it was just pathetic looking. I mean, it wasn't even close to picking up either. The 4th down, you throw it to short, to the sideline where, I mean, at least throw the ball past the sticks. Even if it's picked off, at least then it's like a punt. At least you're getting some yardage out of it. I didn't like the decision making. The accuracy was off. The whole offense looked off. I mean, it was frustrating. The lack of commitment to the run game was frustrating. Lamar Jackson, by far the leading carrier, but a lot of his runs were on designed throws. A lot of them, the vast majority of them, if not all, were on designed throws. So not a commitment to the run game. And I get that, there's injuries. Latavius is out. But, I mean, I just don't – I don't think – look, I thought it was a failure all around. Certainly the coaches deserve a huge part of the blame here. Game plan just didn't – it just seemed like the Ravens were outplayed and outcoached in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're speaking about the game in generalities, I just think at the end of the day, and this is a cliche saying, we didn't deserve to win. We got outcoached, we got outplayed, we got out-willed, we got out-disciplined. One of the things I thought was frustrating was the fact that Cincinnati had no penalties until trash time, and it took Tyus Bowser having an absolute conniption to get a single penalty. I'm sorry, but I find that hard to believe. That one hard to believe. So I'm not blaming our loss on the refs because it wasn't a one-play game, obviously. But I don't think the refs did us any favors, certainly. And while they certainly played more disciplined than us, on the other side, I think we had 7 penalties for 62 yards. Is that what it ended up being? Something
let's
around
see.
there.
Penalties 5 for 40. I thought it was more than 5.
No, it was 5.
46.
It was 5 for 52 before those 2 consecutive offsides.
Yeah, ESPN must be slow updating. They only got us 5 for 46.
I know it was 5 for 52 right before those 2. And to do that in back-to-back plays. And, it was funny because that play where Lamar went short to Tyson Williams, he just Lamar Jackson looked absolutely exhausted to me at that point. I mean, he just looked exhausted, beat up,
he did
physically,
look exhausted,
mentally. Right. But I don't think that we can keep playing our franchise quarterback, not the style, but at the amount of punishment that he took. And part of it's on Lamar. I think we need to do better as a team taking what is there for us. Like, as a kid, when you're playing sports, you always want to have a one play. Like in basketball, you want to have a one pass possession and then a nice shot, right? But sometimes it takes 3 or 4. You need to take the easy stuff that's not going to make a highlight. But you need to take those things to keep the offense moving forward, build some momentum. I didn't see very much of taking the easy play today. Now, look, I'm not an expert. Maybe it wasn't there, but I saw absolutely zero of taking what the defense is giving you today. And that was one of the things that was frustrating me as well.
Yeah, and offensively, I mean, look, he was sacked 5 times to Burrow's once. And a lot of those sacks weren't necessarily instant pressure. He had some time, was evaluating what was down the field. And so I don't know if nobody got open or he just didn't see it when a guy did. But for whatever reason, there was plenty of those sacks were what we'd call coverage sacks. It wasn't necessarily that instant pressure. Although I thought Hendrickson, once again, he had a big game out there. He was giving them fits and, but I thought that I was surprised by the lack of the ability to get open for Lamar Jackson. And then when they did, he wasn't, his most accurate today. But it's interesting because when you just look at the numbers, He has 257 passing yards, 88 yards on the ground, a touchdown, no turnovers. It looks like a pretty good game, but the offense just didn't seem like they could get into it. And then, of course, losing Makari. Thank
Yeah.
goodness Phillips is back, but still, Makari was playing so well, and now he's out with an ankle. I mean, at this point, thank goodness there's a bye week next week, right? So hopefully we can get some of these horses back.
So yeah, absolutely. As we continue to break down this game, guys, and if you're just hopping in, of course, this is our instant reaction: Cincinnati Bengals beating the Baltimore Ravens. But talking about injuries here, Makari was a huge one. Weirdly enough, like I don't know if it's going to be any better. I was concerned that it was a knee ligament, and obviously still could be ligaments down there that are damaged in his ankle. Did you see where they had him walking down the steps? And
he looked pretty hobbled.
Yeah, so but we'll hope for Makari and his career. He's worked so hard in buses, but he's got to be a guy that you cheer for. Even with the way the season ended last year with him at center, he's done nothing to make the best of his opportunities, and we hope he gets back for the sake of himself, also for the sake of the Ravens, because I don't know if I mean, yeah, it's hard to get thrown into a game like that with Tyree Phillips to just get thrown in, but you kind of need to be prepared for that, and he didn't. He had the penalty. I think he had 2 penalties, but I know he had at least one. Didn't look his best and brightest. So yeah, that was a struggle for me. And then I saw Chuck Clark get banged up. Did we see anything?
He never left. He stayed in the game. Did he stay out
there? Okay.
Hobbled, but he stayed in the game. Thank God. That was a pretty good collision that he got into at the end of that play. But as far as offensively, I mean, we got to talk about the one really bright spot, like you mentioned. Yep. The deep ball that Lamar hit and connected with Hollywood. I thought it was, first of all, a phenomenal throw, but an even better catch and, a body awareness to be able to get both feet down. Fingertip catch, Jimbo, that he was able to secure. It didn't bobble at all when he went to the ground, which we know how sensitive the league is, and ends up, calling what we think are touchdowns incomplete passes. But that was really the bright spot. I thought it was a phenomenal play.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally got some wind in our sails. But, I want to talk – I mean, really quickly, we're going to say offense, but I got to talk about this because right after that play, of course, they come down and they do their thing. But something that is very interesting to me is we are the 3rd oldest defense in the NFL, and we always start so hot. Maybe not always like, we're not always 3 and out. But my point is that, like, if you look at the energy up front, we're moving around, we're confusing the other team, we're doing this, that, and the other. And then in the second half, our defense looks exhausted. Is there any way that they can – like, I'd like to know, and maybe we'll look into this because it's an instant reaction video. Maybe we'll look into this later. The difference in our defensive stats and first down and second down throughout this, first and second half. Because I feel like in the second half, we just look tired, exhausted from all the blitzing, from all the man-to-man, from the constant pressure we're putting on ourselves. I just get concerned that I don't know how long we can keep this pace up. Every game at this point is a marathon, and I just feel like by the time we get to the halfway point, we're done. We've given it all we got. So that's a concern for me, certainly, because and that play made me think of it, because right after that we get some momentum, we go out there, and then bam, they come right back down the field.
Right back.
Yeah, I mean, it was like
we didn't have any. A lot of that's the coaching. I mean, I think the coaches on the Bengals made better adjustments than the Ravens, because you're right. They came out first possession. Oweh barely misses. Free run at Burrow. Free run at him, and he lets him get outside.
Yep.
But that was the big drive for Anthony Averett. So I guess we can start transitioning a little bit into defense. Anthony Averett had an awesome first half. They kept trying to go at him. He had 2 pass breakups on the first drive that forced a punt. He comes out on the second possession. They convert a big 4th down, but ultimately they get a field goal. And then the third possession, again, Anthony Averett, PBU, forces another punt. And then the Bengals on their 4th possession, we stuff them on second and 1, stuff them on 3rd and 1, force another punt. So the Ravens started the game really nicely defensively, but the adjustments that the Bengals were able to make, they outwitted the coaching staff. I mean, it's just all – and then also the tackling defensively.
That's what I was going to bring up next.
Yeah, I mean, the poor tackling reemerged. We saw some more yak happening down the field. And
if I'm not mistaken, both of those plays that went for touchdowns from the running back, I know at least one of them that they identified on the television. In fact, I was surprised they kind of called him out like this, but PQ got swallowed up by the center.
Yeah.
And just kind of got manhandled. So, he seems to be the focus of my problems defensively, but it was everywhere. I mean, it was everywhere. Like, you're absolutely right. Marlon couldn't tackle it. Obviously, there was 3 people that emerged on Jamar Chase on that. What was that? 82 yards. That touchdown?
82-yarder.
82-yard touchdown, and Marlon let him slip out of his hands. A few other folks let him slip out of his hands. So certainly, big problem. What was your take on Marlon's game today? Because I tweeted it out, and in fact, I thought it was interesting that I don't think she was referencing me, but his sister's obviously not happy about the internet trolls, the bad juju being sent her brother's way, criticizing his game is, I'm assuming, what she's referring to. I was one of them. I said maybe he needs to spend less time podcasting and more time watching tape. What was your take on his game today?
Well, I mean, you got to understand who you're grading, right? You're grading Marlon Humphrey, so the standard and the expectation is
high.
super high. So but let me remind fans, he did have a huge interception that at the time gave the opportunity for the Ravens offense to get the team back in the game. So let's not forget that he had the biggest defensive play of the game also. So yeah, he gave up some plays. Obviously, the Uzomah touchdown was tough to watch, where he gets beat by a tight end, first of all. But second of all, he gets pushed off and then can't have the recovery speed to catch up and ultimately scores. It wasn't his best game, and he hasn't had necessarily his best year. But at the same time, he's kind of a one-man show back there at the cornerback position, in that he doesn't have Marcus Peters. So he's being deployed in a lot of different areas, asked to do so many different things. It's not like a guy where they're just sticking him on the outside and saying, go do what you do best. He's asked to go outside. He's asked to go inside. He's asked to cover the tight end. And that's what you expect from a guy who's just highly paid and highly respected. But yeah, there's no doubt he didn't have his best game, but he did have the single best play that the Ravens had defensively all day, and you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, what surprised me more than anything was that Marlon Humphrey is probably the surest tackler at cornerback, and and he's probably the most physically gifted, probably the pound for pound strongest corner. And so to see him struggle at the line, even though it wasn't about physicality, he got shook a few times.
Yeah.
But to see him struggle at the line, lose that battle, and then also to see him struggle in tackling on 2 occasions I can think of was pretty surprising for me. So maybe it wasn't so much the performance for me as it was the way that it happened. The strengths of his game seemed to be, I mean, not exposed isn't the word, but it seemed to be things where he kind of fell short at in this game. But I want to say something, Glenn. I said this before we turn the lights on, and I hope there's some Cincinnati Bengal fans in here. Okay,
here we go. Let me get the charger. I'll let you do your thing.
Yeah. You guys won 41-17, and that's great. Good job. You did an excellent job. All credit to you guys. And but I also want to say this. You spent $230 million in 2 years on your defense. You got a number 1 pick at quarterback. You got endless first-round draft picks. You haven't scored 40 points since 2013. You haven't done anything of relevance since I was a child. So, look, welcome to relevancy. This is the NFL. You and the Cleveland Browns are now relevant for one simple reason. You stunk for the better part of a decade. You've been terrible, laughable, bag over my head type laughable, embarrassing, okay? So welcome to relevancy. For being perpetual losers, you've been rewarded and gotten draft picks and gotten money because no one wants to play there. So welcome to relevancy. And Cincinnati Bengals, I will say one thing, not to the fans, well, a little bit to the fans, but more to the players. I wasn't a big fan of the trash talking to the Ravens fans, of you rubbing it in, and all that's great. Go in, take care of business, and go home. That's totally fine, because at the end of the day, I can't wait to see you in Cincinnati when the game counts more than it did today. I can't wait to see you when it's been cold for a while and your thumbs are too cold because you're practicing outside because your owner won't even make you an indoor facility. Okay? So, look, calm your britches, like my grandma used to tell me. Calm your britches and take a breath, take the victory, humble in defeat, humble in victory at the end of the day. Take it, move on. You deserve it. All credit to you. Enjoy your time in the sun, but at the end of the day, when you do something with relevance, then you can come back and talk to us, all right? You haven't done anything since the Ravens have won 2 Super Bowls. You haven't done anything. Nothing. All right? So, good job for being perpetual losers and getting number 1 draft pick and high draft pick, and having $230 million to pay to your defense over 2 years because no one's wanted to play there. Good job. You made it. You're in the spotlight now. Take advantage of it. But it's a different thing when you're a perpetual winner and you got to turn 7th round draft picks into Pro Bowlers like Bradley Bozeman. So I'm just saying, look, the old George Washington said something really, really profound that I'm going to repeat. Winning is easy. Governing is harder. Okay? So you're here now. But now you got to make something of it. Right? You've got all the resources. But let's see what you do. Congrats on being first in the AFC North. Congrats for being the hobbled Baltimore Ravens today, who have a skeleton crew in the backfield and had a hobbled offensive line. But at the end of the season, we'll see how things go, Mr. Joey B with the green suit. We'll see how things go.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Look, Jimbo, we come on here. We get excited when the Ravens win. We got to be a little humble in defeat as well, Jimbo.
Absolutely. We got spanked. We didn't deserve to win today. They deserved to win. Absolutely, Glenn.
Yeah,
like,
look, we got to give them a little bit of credit here. They came in this,
we shouldn't have won.
But no doubt that this seemed like a bigger game in the eyes of the Bengals than it did for the Ravens. I mean, I know that's kind of maybe an easier way to, kind of escape the fact that they just got beat, but it seemed to me like they wanted this game a little bit more. And I don't like using that term because it's kind of like a Stephen A. Smith type thing, but it seemed like this game was more important to them, at least on the field.
Oh, it's the closest they've sniffed to the Super Bowl since, the Super Bowl. When was the last time they were relevant when it comes to the Super Bowl, right? Like, do you remember?
Yeah. No. I guess the closest they came was when Carson Palmer got hurt in the playoff game when they were leading against the Steelers, and then they ended up losing that game. When I think a lot of people agree if Carson stays in that game, it's bad news Bears. That's when Chad Johnson, TJ Houshmandzadeh was still there.
But you're absolutely right. Let me interject really quickly. If I sound butthurt, it's because I am butthurt. It's really that simple.
We're fans first. We say that in the description.
That's right. I'm a Ravens fan, and I'll always be a Ravens fan. So at the end of the day, it hurts to lose. I agree with you, Glenn. We lost and did not deserve to win. I think that the team was waiting for Lamar to pull some heroics out of his backside, and it wasn't going to happen today. So all credit goes to the Bengals. My only point is that enjoy it while you can. You've been losing for the better part of a decade. So welcome to relevancy. Join the crew. You're now in the club. We'll see what you make of it. It's only been 7 weeks. It's way too early to tell, but don't go anointing yourself anything special until you do it at the end of the season is my only point.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair enough. All right. Well, maybe they are putting a cart before the horse a little bit, and this might be their Super Bowl, but you don't know till the season's end. My whole thing was, did this feel at all because of the, it just seemed lackluster at the end. And did this feel like a team that was maybe starting their bye week a week early and seeing that right on the horizon there? Do you buy into that at all?
I don't want to.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to avoid that thought. What about you?
Yeah, I guess I tend to agree with you. I'd be shocked if this veteran of a team with this veteran of a coach would allow that to happen. But it was just surprisingly lackluster for me. I was disappointed in a lot of areas for the Ravens today. It was shockingly a shockingly uninspired second half. Typically we've been a second half team all year, and when I saw the Ravens go into the half down, down 3 with the ball starting the second half, I felt pretty good about that, knowing the Ravens have been good, really better in the second half for the most part this year than they have in the first. So I was feeling good, and then they come out, they play well, they score, and then it just really went to hell from there. It was all Bengals from there. So I wanted to get into a couple other things though.
Yeah.
As far as the penalties go, some of those that hold that on Villanueva that erased the 39-yard run, I thought it was a little bit of a weak call. The defensive pass interference I thought was weak. However, I don't know why they even accepted that. The ball was caught, and really essentially all you're doing is taking your stats away from your players by accepting it because the ball ends up in the same place. It's a first down. But I was a little surprised at the lopsidedness of the calls. It seemed like they threw in one for the Bengals at the end just to make it look not like such a discrepancy. I think it was like 6-0 at that point.
They're talking to each other on the mics and like, guys, we can't have this be a conspiracy theory. Let's throw them off with a penalty here.
Yeah, and of course the game was not lost because of the refs. The game was lost primarily because the defense gave up 3 or 4 long scores, and the offense was inconsistent drive to drive. Had some really poor drives and had some really, really successful drives, but I still was a little disappointed at the timely calls. It seemed like it was big moments where we got called back, and big moments for them where they were able to, to help them convert. But I will say, dumb penalty by Pernell McPhee. Ooh.
Yeah, and I think that's the second one he's gotten this year. Yeah, that, certainly he that was not a smart move.
No.
I mean, he took like 2.5 steps. I could have eaten half a sandwich by the time he hit Joe Burrow. So certainly that was a bad one.
Like frustration, despite the fact the Ravens were very much in the game at that point.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say too, the one thing that did frustrate me, like you said, we did not lose because of the refs, but they mentioned it. They were letting them play out there, in the secondary, the wide receivers against the corners and the safeties and things like that. And then all of a sudden, for the same type of play, they call the pass interference. So I've always preached this. If you're going to let them play, you got to let them play from start to end. Mm-hmm. You can't decide when the rules change. Like if you set the tone at the beginning of the game by letting them be physical, then let them be physical. If you set the tone at the beginning of the game by being, ticky-tacky, then call it that way. But I think what players get frustrated the most with is lack of consistency. Not so much that the play is called, the game is called a certain way, but that it's up and down and up and down. It's inconsistent. Call it one way or don't. So while that only happened once, that is one thing that tends to frustrate me. Like that whole game, they were going, we saw Averett a ton, but they were playing extremely physical. And then all of a sudden, like, you know what? Not this one, buddy. We let all 900 the other plays go, but not this one. Why? All the other ones you just let play on. So yeah, that was frustrating to me as well. But I have a couple positive notes here, if you believe it or not, Glenn. I got my venom out.
I like it.
Yeah. So look, at the end of the day, forgetting who we win or lose against in the first 7 weeks of the season, we're 5-2.
Mm-hmm.
You taking that with knowing that we go into the regular season? Before the regular season started, we had the most players on IR. That list has only gotten bigger. Mm-hmm. So you're taking that, right?
Oh, I'm taking that. I mean, look, I don't like losing a home game inside the division, especially the first divisional game of the year. But if you told me after 7 games we'd be 5-2, I'd be perfectly happy with that. Be perfectly fine, especially after the injury bug bit the Ravens. I would have been elated to know that they'd still go 5-2 despite losing so many quality players at big positions. So I think you should still be encouraged as a Ravens fan. You should still like where this team is in the sense of they're going to be getting some guys back. Look, I think Derek Wolfe makes a big difference when he comes back to this team. Hopefully that's after the bye week. I guess it's a wait and see there. But I think eventually he comes back. I'm hopeful that the Macari injury isn't a long injury.
At the very least, he's got 2 weeks.
Exactly. So, I think there's reason to be encouraged. And look around the division. The Bengals have also been extremely fortunate in that they haven't lost any key guys. I mean, they have been very, very healthy by any standard. If you look around the league, they're probably the healthiest team in the entire league.
Yeah.
So, but the Browns haven't been so lucky. They're extremely beat up. So I don't really look at them as this team that, they won last week against a horrible Bronco team where their head coach is probably going to be fired before the year's out. No shot to Vic.
He's going to be playing bridge at the 55-plus season.
Yeah, my man's going to be at the Golden Corral at 4:30 catching the early bird special before the year's out. But
when they put the meat out, but before they charge the dinner prices.
Exactly. Right when the food is starting to get cold and they're about to switch it over. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, don't really look like a team that's built for the long haul of the season, even though they've had some decent games recently. So I think the division is still between the Ravens and the Bengals. And if you want to look at, history, I'd still take my chances with the Ravens. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Ravens return the favor later in the season, going to Cincinnati and beat them on their home field.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with you 100%. I want to get into the reinforcements that we'll also get back because a decent part of the show, I want to talk about what we can do moving forward, like what's in our control, right? Like we took a loss. Let's internalize it. Let's take something from it and get better, right? Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to do our best impersonation of the Black Panther suit where he like takes the energy he's getting hit with and then is able to like turn it around and put it back on people, right? So that's what we want to do here. All right. So look, our destiny is still in our own hands. That's huge. at the end of the day. We've still beaten the Chiefs, who look like hot garbage, but for
Ooh,
some reason, I suspect that they're going to find a way to turn it around and make a push. So we still
maybe.
have that feather in our cap if it comes down to like some sort of a wild card scenario or something like that. Same thing with the Chargers. We've also beaten them. So I think that those are some things we can look to. The other thing too, and I'm not hoping injuries on anyone, but you talked about the Cincinnati Bengals being healthy. It's at some point somebody, everyone gets their due. It's a high contact sport. Things will happen, and next man up is a mantra for a reason. But the other thing I want to talk about is what's in our control. So you talked about potentially getting McCarry back. We'll see what the extent of that injury is. But Latavius Murray I'm guessing, will definitely be healthy.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if this was the playoffs, he would have played today. Lamar Jackson will have 2 weeks off to rest up. And then Nick Boyle, we'll see. Will he come back as well? I feel like and Sammy Watkins will have another 2 weeks. So we could have a facelift to this offense.
Yeah.
After this bye week, and really find a way to hit our stride. Because if you think about Boyle, Watkins, Latavius, and
Derek
McCarr.
Wolf. Don't forget about Derek Wolf.
Right. And this is just offensively, right? So we even brought Derek Wolf, but we talk about those three and then McCarry just on offense.
And then look, Ben Cleveland is expected to at some point return to this team.
There you go. Absolutely.
So there's a lot of reason for optimism. And look, let's look at the schedule coming out. They come off the bye week at home against a Minnesota team that has had more horrible losses than any team in the league. I think we're all going to be thinking that they're going to be the favorites in there, no matter who you ask. Then they got to go at Miami. We know what happens when the Ravens go at Miami. We usually have more fans in the stands than they do, and it's usually an ass whipping. Then they got to go at Chicago, a Chicago team that looks, they just look like they're in a transition period. They're not really ready to win yet. And although I did pick the Ravens to lose to them in preseason as one of their games that they would lose, I think the Ravens are going to be expected to win that game. So there's 3 games coming out of the bye week before you really play another game where you might think the Ravens are going to have a real tough time, and that's the Cleveland Browns, and really that depends on their health at that point. So I think the Ravens will get back to winning ways.
Yeah, because Baker's injury looks worse than what initially was anticipated. He's got a fracture in his bone up there, along with the torn labrum. So
and the running backs.
Yeah, that's a serious problem. And then really quickly, I'm trying to look at the schedule here. When do we see the Bengals again? Because
week 16.
We might have to make a drive, my friend.
At Cincinnati.
Yeah, because I can't wait to see. Look, it's going to be the day after Christmas. It is going to be freezing in Cincinnati. They're gonna.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get out there and play when it's cold. So yeah, I still think at the end of the day, the takeaways in this game are we've got to tackle, we've got to pace ourselves defensively, we've got to play cleaner, right?
Yeah.
And then offensively, I think Lamar needs to be more patient. He needs to evenly distribute the ball. I think our offensive line needs to get healthy, and LeVeon Bell might need to hit the retirement home.
Yeah, I was surprised Freeman didn't get more looks. I thought when he had he was okay today. He was about what I'd expect from him. But yeah, LeVeon Bell, disappointment. I wouldn't mind seeing Nate McCrary next week or 2 weeks.
He must be an incredible pass blocker. Right? Like,
is that the only way he's making this? Keeps making the game day roster.
It has to be, don't you think?
Yeah, he certainly didn't play very well today. The one catch he did have was negative yards, and he turned 5 carries into 5 yards. So the guy didn't play very well. But to me,
was he always this slow?
No, of course not. He had better bursts back in. He was always that methodical runner where he'd allow the blocks to kind of take shape in front of him, and they just credit to his patience. But he always had the burst to then get through the hole quickly. And he was always, good at running through arm tackles. So obviously he's lost a step. He hasn't played a ton of football really over the last few years. So, you're running back, you're getting older. But to me, this game was really, it was a combination of multiple things. But the defense to me was the biggest disappointment. When I look at the defensive box score and your first 2 leading tacklers are corners, that means you had a real bad day. You shouldn't have Anthony Averett lead your team in tackles with Marlon Humphrey on his heels. You shouldn't. It should be your linebacking core, or at very most a safety, but not your corners leading your team in tackles.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But look, at the end of the day, like we said, we got it all out in front of us. And at the very end of the game, when it didn't matter, Lamar Jackson did still find a way to put Logan Wilson on his backside. That to me, it brought a smile to my face. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, we got our butts handed to us. So let's get right to our competition winners today, Glenn. And internally, but amongst the three of us, the streak continues, my friend.
It's just every freaking week. I don't know what I'm going to do to get a win. I can't. I don't know. It's like I've never watched the team. DK wins again in our internal competition. Despite not having his best week, only gets 2 of the 4 over-unders correct. But fortunately for him, me and you only got 1 of the 4 correct.
Ugh.
So he still reigns supreme.
Freaking DK, dude. Like,
every single week. And you think he'd give us 1. I mean, but no.
He's got his foot on our throat and just
it's like that run in the second half by Pirine. He smells blood in the water and he puts his foot right on the throat. So yeah, DK wins. But let's get into our winner from the fan base, because this was a pretty heated battle. Two player, I think 2 or 3 tied with 4 out of 4. So it came down to closest to the pin. Whoever was best as far as predicting total yardage for the Bengals and total score for the game. And so this week's winner of the over-under and closest to the pin challenge is Jimmy
Abayomi Ayamide. That's my guess. But shout out Abayomi. I bet you that is right. But the second one, I have no idea. Either way, you killed it. Got 4 out of 4, like Glenn said, and won the closest to the pin. Honorable mention came up super close. Our guy, David Cutsale, shout out to him as well. But Abayomi, please message us on any social media platform, like directly message us your address and shirt size. Guys, don't forget your shirt size, because we will send you a shirt. Additionally, if I've sent all the shirts out, if some of you guys have not gotten it yet, give it a week, give it till the first week of November. And if you haven't, DM us and we will get it to you through hell or high water. You're getting your 410 Sports Talk shirt. So shout out, keep them coming. It's been a lot of fun every week to get in on it and see you guys compete. And man, some of these people get super close, a lot closer than all of us. Obviously,
they know the team a lot better than us, Jimbo.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I've never been 4 for 4 on the over under since we started this, and usually our winner always is. So, it's been a bad year for me. But look, maybe I was on the bye week a little early, also, Jimbo. Maybe it wasn't just the Ravens. I was looking into the bye and maybe looking past the Bengals game a little bit. But DK, I'm hot coming out the bye. I mean, I'm just saying.
Are you John Harbaugh coming off the bye?
All week, I'm studying the freaking Vikings. I'm studying this matchup, and I'm going to win this over-under. But look, guys, let us know what you guys thought about the game. Maybe give us a silver lining. Please, everyone, take the time. Give us a silver lining in the comments section. If you need to vent some frustrations, we certainly understand that and respect that. We definitely had our fair share here. Michael says, cut the game off a little early. Very hard to watch. I don't blame you. Let me ask you this before we go. I'm sorry. I know it sounded like we were ending the show, but Jimmy, quickly.
Yep.
Were you surprised that Lamar was pulled so early? I think there was over 6.5 minutes left when we saw
I thought
Huntley.
About that.
Were they a little quick to pull him?
The only reason I say no is because the offensive line, I mean, he was getting beat up.
Yeah.
Lamar was getting beat up, and I mean, we're down 41-17.
Just with the heroics that he's done, we had a 3% chance to win a game earlier. We win it. I thought it was a little early just because of the heroics.
I understand your point. And I tell you what, Michael, this is how much we care about you guys. Trust me, games like this, I would love nothing more than to get my Sunday evening started off early and turn it off. But, we got to watch every play beginning to end because we want to be here for you guys.
That's it. Even in the losses, we will be here. Look, Jimmy needed to vent. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of shit talked his way for that vent about the Bengals. But that's what we do. We're fans. We're emotional. We're sometimes a little bit sore losers and sore winners.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one. Tough one when you lose to the Bengals. You lose the little brother like that. It's really frustrating, for sure. It's the most frustrating of all. But look, I'll stand on my point. I'll die on my shield when it comes to this point.
Jesus.
You are just gaining relevancy with your new team and your new coach and your new quarterback because you've been so bad for so long. So you had a ton of cash and a ton of picks. You're doing some good things with it. Congrats to you. I'm proud of you.
Bob is in the chats and he's running his mouth to your boy about my fantasy team. Shout out to Bobby P in the comments. But yeah, I do need to work on my fantasy team. You're right about that. Do you see it?
Why
Do you
can
see
I
who's
not
in the
see
chat?
this?
You don't
No.
see it? Huh?
No.
It says Glenn, you should study your fantasy team more. I can't believe you don't see who that is. It's a legend in Harford County.
Mr. Pearney?
You're talking about a legend in the game of Harford County. But that's it for us, boys. Let us know what you guys think.
I see it here.
Appreciate everyone who jumped in the comments and showed some support and got to vent some stuff out. Let us know what you guys think of the game. And don't worry, we're not taking the week off. We're still putting out big time shows.
We're gonna do some really awesome stuff in the bye week. So make sure to stay tuned, turn on the notifications. Of course, this week we'll be putting out some videos tomorrow and then Wednesday and Friday and things like that. So yeah, we'll be here for you guys. Make sure to tune in, turn on the notifications. Make sure to give us your shirt size and DM us your address. Let's put up that winner again one more time, DK, if you don't mind. And Abayomi, congrats. We'll talk to you guys soon. Like you said, Glenn, thank you so much. Have a great evening.